Michael's leadership style focused on measurable outcomes, client satisfaction metrics, and revenue generation, creating an environment where performance could speak for itself. What I didn't understand at the time was how effectively Jessica had been undermining that performance-based culture through careful cultivation of doubt and speculation. Her 5 years at TechFlow had given her relationships throughout the company, connections with people in HR, finance, and operations who trusted her judgment about personnel matters. When Jessica expressed concerns about rapid promotions or unusual advancement patterns, people listened because they respected her tenure and assumed her observations were based on legitimate professional insights. The Morrison Industries opportunity had emerged 6 months earlier when Michael announced that TechFlow was competing for a major contract that could establish our company as a serious player in enterprise software consulting. The project involved developing a comprehensive digital transformation strategy for Morrison's manufacturing operations, integrating their legacy systems with modern cloud-based solutions that would improve efficiency while maintaining data security. The complexity of the project required deep understanding of both technical capabilities and business operations, making it exactly the kind of challenge that demanded innovative thinking. When Michael asked for volunteers to lead the proposal development, I saw an opportunity to demonstrate capabilities that went beyond my previous projects. Morrison Industries represented the kind of sophisticated client relationship that could define careers, and the scope of their digital transformation needs aligned perfectly with strategic planning skills I developed during my MBA program. The months that followed involved extensive research into Morrison's business model, detailed analysis of their operational challenges, and creative solutions that balanced technological innovation with practical implementation requirements. The proposal process consumed my professional life in ways that went far beyond normal work expectations. Evenings and weekends disappeared into spreadsheet analysis, technical research, and strategic planning sessions that pushed me to integrate everything I'd learned about marketing strategy, project management, and client relationship development. The intensity was exhausting but exhilarating, representing exactly the kind of complex challenge that I'd hoped to encounter when joining TechFlow. What made the Morrison project particularly demanding was the need to coordinate with multiple departments while maintaining confidentiality about competitive strategies. Software consulting proposals require input from technical teams, financial analysts, and operations specialists, but they also involve sensitive information about pricing models and implementation timelines that competitors would find valuable. Managing these coordination requirements while developing comprehensive solutions required organizational skills that drew heavily on my MBA training in project management and strategic planning. Throughout the proposal development process, Jessica's comments about my capabilities became more pointed and frequent. She'd question whether someone with my background could handle the technical complexity of enterprise software consulting, or suggest that Morrison Industries might prefer working with more experienced team leaders. Her concerns were always presented as supportive guidance, warnings about the career risks of taking on projects that might exceed my qualifications, but the cumulative effect was to create doubt about my readiness for such high-stakes responsibilities. More problematic were Jessica's conversations with Michael about resource allocation and team assignments for the Morrison project. While I was developing proposal content and coordinating with technical specialists, Jessica was positioning herself as a backup option, someone with more tenure and established client relationships who could step in if the project scope proved too demanding for newer team members. Her approach was sophisticated, emphasizing her commitment to company success rather than personal advancement, but the underlying message was clear: my leadership of the Morrison proposal represented a risky bet that could be mitigated by having more experienced alternatives ready. The technical complexity of Morrison's requirements did push me beyond my previous experience in ways that required intensive learning and creative problem-solving. Enterprise digital transformation involves integrating multiple software systems, managing data migration processes, and ensuring security compliance that affects thousands of users across different departments. Understanding these requirements well enough to develop competitive proposals required research into areas like cloud architecture, cybersecurity protocols, and change management strategies that hadn't been central to my previous projects. What sustained me through months of intensive preparation was the recognition that Morrison Industries represented exactly the kind of challenge that separated high-performing professionals from those who remained comfortable with familiar responsibilities. The project demanded skills that couldn't be developed through routine client management or incremental responsibilities, requiring instead the kind of analytical thinking and strategic planning that my MBA education had emphasized. Each technical challenge became an opportunity to demonstrate capabilities that went beyond my previous experience. The breakthrough came during a late-night research session when I discovered that Morrison's operational challenges could be addressed through a modular implementation approach that would allow them to upgrade their systems incrementally while maintaining productivity throughout the transition process. This strategy would reduce their risk while providing measurable improvements at each stage, creating a competitive advantage that addressed their primary concerns about digital transformation timelines and budget predictability. Developing this modular approach required coordination with TechFlow's technical teams to ensure that our proposed solutions were feasible within Morrison's timeline and budget constraints. These discussions revealed additional opportunities for customization that could differentiate our proposal from competitors who were likely offering more standardized solutions. The collaborative process of refining technical specifications while maintaining strategic coherence was exactly the kind of complex project management that validated my decision to pursue the Morrison account despite Jessica's concerns about my qualifications. As the proposal deadline approached, the intensity of working 12-hour days while managing my other client responsibilities began affecting my performance in ways that Jessica was quick to notice and comment upon. My presentations during team meetings became less polished, my responses to routine emails were delayed, and my usually meticulous attention to detail showed signs of strain that colleagues attributed to being overwhelmed by responsibilities beyond my experience level. Jessica's observations about these performance indicators weren't technically inaccurate, but her interpretation emphasized personal limitations rather than acknowledging the extraordinary demands of developing competitive proposals for enterprise clients. The final weeks before proposal submission involved coordination challenges that tested every aspect of my professional capabilities. Technical specifications needed approval from multiple departments, pricing models required input from finance, and implementation timelines demanded consensus between operations and client services. Managing these interdependencies while maintaining proposal quality and meeting Morrison's deadline created the kind of high-pressure situation where mistakes could compromise months of preparation. What made this period particularly stressful was the growing awareness that Jessica had been positioning herself as an alternative if the Morrison project proved too demanding for my leadership. Her conversations with Michael about backup planning and risk mitigation had created a parallel track where my potential failure was being anticipated and managed, rather than my success being supported and encouraged. The psychological pressure of knowing that colleagues were expecting difficulties added an emotional dimension to professional challenges that were already stretching my capabilities. The evening I submitted our Morrison Industries proposal marked the end of 8 months of intensive preparation and the beginning of a waiting period that would determine whether my strategic approach had been successful. The document represented hundreds of hours of research, analysis, and creative problem-solving, packaged into a comprehensive presentation that demonstrated TechFlow's capabilities while addressing Morrison's specific requirements. Whether that preparation would translate into contract approval remained uncertain, but the completion itself represented a professional milestone that validated my decision to pursue opportunities beyond my previous experience. What I couldn't have anticipated as I finally left the office that evening was how Jessica's months of careful reputation management were about to escalate into direct confrontation. The Morrison contract approval would trigger events that would force both of us to reveal our true professional priorities and personal character. The woman I'd dismissed as a jealous colleague was about to demonstrate exactly how far she was willing to go to undermine my success, while I was about to discover strengths I hadn't known I possessed. The celebration I'd imagined for securing TechFlow's largest contract was about to become the opening act of a much more serious drama, one that would test everything I'd learned about standing up for myself in professional environments where competence and character weren't always sufficient protection against systematic undermining. Tomorrow would bring new challenges that would make the Morrison proposal process seem simple by comparison. The celebration dinner I'd planned for myself never happened. Instead, I found myself staying late in the office that Friday evening, ostensibly to catch up on administrative tasks that had accumulated during my intense focus on the Morrison proposal, but really because I needed time to process what securing this contract meant for my career trajectory at TechFlow. The 15th floor was nearly empty except for the cleaning crew and the occasional colleague finishing up weekend preparations, creating the kind of quiet environment where I could finally think clearly about what came next. What I discovered during those quiet hours was that my computer had been accessed multiple times during the previous weeks, with login records showing activity during periods when I was definitely not at my desk. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The IT department's automated security reports, which arrived in everyone's email but were typically ignored, contained timestamps and access logs that revealed someone had been monitoring my work far more systematically than casual office curiosity would explain. These weren't random privacy violations or accidental security breaches, but deliberate surveillance that suggested someone was tracking my progress on the Morrison project with almost professional thoroughness. The pattern became clear when I cross-referenced the computer access logs with my calendar and email timestamps. Someone had been reviewing my files during lunch breaks, checking my email correspondence after I left for client meetings, and examining document revision histories during periods when I was attending training sessions or department meetings. The frequency and timing of these intrusions suggested intimate knowledge of my schedule and daily routines, information that would only be available to someone who had been observing my workplace habits with considerable attention to detail. More disturbing was the discovery that several of my Morrison Industries research files had been copied to external drives, with timestamps indicating these transfers occurred during evening hours when the office was largely empty. The technical sophistication required for accessing password-protected documents and copying sensitive client information suggested either advanced computer skills or assistance from someone with administrative privileges. Either possibility meant that my months of intensive preparation had been systematically monitored and potentially compromised by people who understood the value of competitive intelligence. The realization that my professional work had been under surveillance transformed my understanding of Jessica's recent behavior and comments. Her detailed questions about Morrison's requirements and my proposal strategies hadn't been casual curiosity or collegial interest, but rather confirmation of information she'd already obtained through unauthorized access to my files. Every conversation where she'd expressed concern about my qualifications or questioned my approach to enterprise consulting had been informed by stolen intelligence about my actual capabilities and preparation methods. What made this discovery particularly unsettling was the recognition that Jessica's campaign against my reputation hadn't been limited to office gossip and subtle undermining, but had involved actual theft of proprietary business information that belonged both to me personally and to TechFlow as a company. The Morrison proposal contained strategic insights, pricing models, and technical specifications that represented significant competitive advantages, information that could be valuable to rival consulting firms or alternative team members hoping to position themselves for similar opportunities. The evidence of systematic surveillance also explained how Jessica had been able to anticipate my actions and prepare counterarguments for my strategic decisions with such precision. Her seemingly intuitive understanding of my weaknesses and professional blind spots hadn't been based on careful observation or superior experience, but rather on stolen access to my private communications, research notes, and strategic planning documents. She'd been playing a game where she knew my cards while I remained unaware that the game was even being played. Saturday morning brought an unexpected encounter that would transform my understanding of who was really watching whom at TechFlow Solutions. I'd returned to the office to collect some personal items and finish organizing my workspace after the intensity of the Morrison project, expecting to find the building nearly empty during weekend hours. Instead, I discovered that the overnight security guard was someone I'd never seen during regular business hours, a quiet man in his 50s who introduced himself as Robert Thompson and seemed surprisingly knowledgeable about office dynamics. For someone whose primary responsibility was building security, Bob, as he preferred to be called, had been working the night shift at TechFlow for 3 years, arriving at 10 p.m. and leaving at 6 a.m., which meant he was present during the evening hours when someone had been accessing my computer and copying sensitive files. His responsibilities included monitoring security cameras, checking access logs, and ensuring that sensitive areas remained secure during non-business hours, tasks that had given him extensive knowledge about who was working late, which employees had access to restricted areas, and what kind of activities were occurring when most people assumed the building was empty. What surprised me about Bob was his educational background and professional experience, which extended far beyond typical security work. He held a degree in computer science from Colorado State University and had spent 15 years working in IT departments before a corporate downsizing had forced him into security work to support his family during his wife's medical treatment. His technical expertise meant that he understood the significance of the computer access logs I'd discovered, and his position gave him unique insight into the activities that had been occurring during his overnight shifts. Bob's revelation about Jessica's evening activities was both shocking and strangely validating. He'd been observing her pattern of staying late on specific days, always when she knew I wouldn't be returning to the office, and her behavior had raised enough concerns that he'd begun documenting her activities as potential security violations. Jessica's after-hours presence had initially seemed like dedicated work ethic, but Bob's trained eye had noticed that her activities focused primarily on areas where she wouldn't normally have business responsibilities. The security camera footage that Bob had been quietly preserving told a story that was far more damaging than simple computer access violations. Jessica had been meeting with people who weren't TechFlow employees during evening hours, using conference rooms for discussions that lasted well beyond normal business activities. Bob's records showed that these meetings had increased in frequency during the months when I was preparing the Morrison proposal, suggesting coordination with external parties who had specific interest in TechFlow's competitive strategies and client development activities. More concerning was Bob's observation that Jessica had been providing these unknown visitors with access to secure areas of the building, including the IT department where she could review server logs and backup files that contained comprehensive records of all company communications and document activities. Her abuse of after-hours access privileges extended beyond personal curiosity about my work to systematic intelligence gathering that could compromise TechFlow's competitive position with multiple clients, not just Morrison Industries. Bob's decision to share this information with me reflected his growing concern that Jessica's activities represented serious security breaches that could expose TechFlow to legal liability and competitive disadvantage. His background in corporate IT had taught him to recognize the difference between innocent policy violations and deliberate corporate espionage, and Jessica's behavior patterns clearly fell into the latter category. The systematic nature of her surveillance, the coordination with external parties, and the targeting of specific competitive intelligence suggested professional training in information gathering techniques. What Bob found particularly troubling was that Jessica's activities appeared to be part of a larger pattern of corporate intelligence gathering that extended beyond her personal interest in undermining my career advancement. The external visitors she'd been meeting with had shown up during other sensitive periods in TechFlow's business cycle, suggesting ongoing relationships rather than isolated incidents related to the Morrison contract. Jessica's role in these activities seemed to involve providing insider access and intelligence rather than simply pursuing personal revenge against a colleague. The implications of Bob's discoveries extended far beyond office politics or professional jealousy into potential criminal activity that could affect TechFlow's entire business model. Corporate espionage involving theft of proprietary client information and strategic business intelligence carried serious legal consequences, both for the individuals involved and for any competing firms that might be receiving stolen information. Jessica's activities had created liability exposure that could result in federal charges if the intelligence gathering involved clients with government contracts or regulated industries. Bob's technical expertise had also allowed him to trace the external drive copies of my Morrison files to specific devices that weren't registered with TechFlow's IT department, suggesting that sensitive client information was being transferred to unauthorized parties for purposes that definitely violated both company policy and legal requirements for protecting proprietary business intelligence. The professional sophistication of these operations indicated that Jessica wasn't acting independently, but rather as part of a coordinated effort to compromise TechFlow's competitive advantages. What made Bob's revelations particularly valuable was his systematic approach to documenting evidence rather than simply observing suspicious behavior. His background in corporate IT had taught him the importance of maintaining detailed records that could withstand legal scrutiny, and his 3 years of security work had given him experience with the documentation requirements for investigating potential criminal activity. The evidence he'd assembled was comprehensive enough to support formal investigations by both corporate security and law enforcement agencies. Bob's motivation for sharing this information with me extended beyond personal concern about security violations to professional recognition of the broader implications for TechFlow's business integrity. He'd spent his career in environments where protecting proprietary information was essential for competitive success, and Jessica's activities represented exactly the kind of insider threat that could destroy companies through loss of competitive intelligence and client confidence. His decision to involve me in addressing these issues reflected both moral obligation and practical understanding of what needed to be done to protect the company. The weekend that followed Bob's revelations transformed my understanding of the professional environment at TechFlow and my own position within ongoing corporate politics. What I'd interpreted as personal jealousy and workplace rivalry was actually part of systematic corporate espionage that threatened TechFlow's entire business model. Jessica's campaign against my reputation hadn't been motivated by disappointment about promotion opportunities, but rather by her role in intelligence gathering operations that required undermining employees who might discover or interfere with her activities. More importantly, Bob's evidence suggested that my success with the Morrison Industries contract represented a significant problem for Jessica's external relationships, because my strategic approach and technical insights had created competitive advantages that her intelligence gathering operations were supposed to prevent. The modular implementation strategy that had differentiated TechFlow's proposal from our competitors wasn't just a professional achievement, but a development that could expose the extent to which our competition had been receiving insider intelligence about our capabilities and strategic planning. Understanding the true scope of Jessica's activities also explained why her efforts to undermine my reputation had become more desperate and obvious during the final weeks of the Morrison proposal process. My success represented evidence that TechFlow could develop innovative solutions independently, without the information leaks that had been compromising our competitive position. Jessica's increasing anxiety about my advancement reflected concern about protecting her intelligence-gathering operations rather than simple career disappointment. Bob's willingness to document and expose Jessica's activities had provided me with evidence and allies that transformed the entire dynamic of our workplace conflict. Instead of defending my qualifications against personal attacks, I now possessed information about systematic security violations that gave me leverage for protecting both my career and TechFlow's business interests. The woman who'd been positioning herself as my professional superior was about to discover that her activities had been under surveillance by someone with both the skills and authority to expose her true motivations. The Monday morning following my weekend conversations with Bob brought new clarity about how to address Jessica's campaign against my reputation while protecting TechFlow from the broader implications of her intelligence-gathering activities. Instead of responding defensively to her personal attacks, I could now focus on documenting security violations that threatened company interests beyond individual career advancement. The evidence Bob had assembled provided a foundation for systematic investigation that would reveal the full scope of corporate espionage operations that had been compromising TechFlow's competitive position. What I realized during that weekend was that Jessica's months of undermining my professional reputation had actually created the perfect opportunity for exposing her real activities without appearing to engage in personal retaliation. Her pattern of questioning my qualifications and suggesting incompetence had established expectations that any investigation of her behavior would appear motivated by defensive career protection rather than legitimate security concerns. Bob's evidence allowed me to shift the entire framework from personal conflict to corporate security investigation. The most satisfying aspect of this strategic shift was recognizing that Jessica's own actions had created the documentation trail that would expose her activities. Her systematic surveillance of my work had required using company resources in ways that violated multiple policies. Her coordination with external parties had created security camera evidence of unauthorized access, and her theft of proprietary information had left digital fingerprints that Bob's technical expertise could trace and document. The very thoroughness that had made her intelligence gathering effective had also made it vulnerable to detection by someone with appropriate skills and authority. As Monday morning approached, I prepared for a week that would transform TechFlow's understanding of corporate security threats while simultaneously addressing Jessica's campaign against my professional reputation. The woman who'd spent months positioning me as an incompetent beneficiary of undeserved advancement was about to learn that her own activities had been systematically documented by people with both the evidence and authority to expose the truth about who really represented a threat to company interests. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp Denver air that usually energized me for challenging weeks ahead, but today carried an undercurrent of anticipation that had nothing to do with weather patterns. Bob and I had spent Sunday evening developing a systematic approach to documenting Jessica's activities while protecting TechFlow's interests, and the strategy we'd outlined would require careful coordination between security protocols and corporate investigation procedures. What made our planning particularly complex was the need to gather additional evidence while avoiding any actions that might alert Jessica to the fact that her surveillance activities had been discovered and were now being systematically investigated. Bob's expertise in corporate security had taught him that successful investigation of insider threats required patience and methodical evidence gathering rather than immediate confrontation, because sophisticated intelligence operations typically involved multiple participants and external coordination that needed to be fully understood before any intervention could be effective. Jessica's activities represented the visible portion of what could be a much larger corporate espionage operation, and premature action might cause other participants to disappear before their roles could be documented and addressed. The first phase of our investigation involved Bob's technical analysis of the digital evidence that Jessica's computer access had created, using his administrative privileges to examine server logs, backup files, and security camera footage in ways that would provide comprehensive documentation of her activities without creating obvious investigative traces that might alert her to scrutiny. His plan involved systematic review of 3 months of evening activity, correlating security camera footage with computer access logs and external drive usage to create a timeline that would demonstrate the scope and coordination of Jessica's intelligence gathering. What Bob discovered during his initial technical analysis exceeded even our worst expectations about the systematic nature of Jessica's activities. The digital forensics revealed that she'd been accessing confidential client files for 7 different TechFlow accounts, copying strategic planning documents, proposal drafts, and competitive analysis reports that represented the company's most sensitive business intelligence. Her selection of targets wasn't random but followed a pattern that suggested external guidance about which clients and projects would be most valuable for competitive intelligence purposes. More alarming was Bob's discovery that Jessica had been using administrative credentials that she shouldn't have possessed, accessing server directories and backup systems that required elevated privileges typically reserved for IT management and senior executives. The sophistication of her access methods suggested either extensive technical training or assistance from someone within TechFlow's IT department who was providing unauthorized credentials and guidance about navigating security systems without triggering automatic monitoring alerts. The external drive analysis revealed that Jessica had been copying approximately 50 gigabytes of proprietary information each month, including complete client databases, financial projections, and strategic planning documents that represented TechFlow's competitive advantages across multiple market segments. The volume and variety of stolen information indicated systematic intelligence gathering operations rather than opportunistic document theft, suggesting coordination with external parties who had specific intelligence requirements and the technical capability to process large volumes of corporate data. Bob's investigation of the security camera footage provided visual confirmation of Jessica's coordination with external parties, documenting 12 separate meetings during the previous 3 months with individuals who weren't TechFlow employees, but had been granted after-hours access to secure areas of the building. These meetings typically lasted between 2 and 4 hours, occurring in conference rooms equipped with presentation technology that would allow detailed discussion of stolen documents and strategic intelligence. What made these meetings particularly concerning was their timing, which consistently occurred during periods when specific TechFlow projects were reaching critical development phases or when competitive proposals were being prepared for major clients. The coordination suggested that external parties had advanced knowledge of TechFlow's business cycle and were timing their intelligence gathering activities to maximize the value of stolen information for competitive advantage purposes. Bob's analysis of meeting participants revealed that several of the external visitors worked for consulting firms that competed directly with TechFlow for major corporate contracts, including companies that had submitted competing proposals for the Morrison Industries account. Jessica's intelligence sharing activities had potentially compromised every major business development effort that TechFlow had undertaken during the previous year, explaining how competitors had been able to submit proposals with suspicious knowledge of TechFlow's strategic approaches and pricing models. The most damaging evidence involved Jessica's theft of personnel files and performance evaluations, which she'd been sharing with external parties as part of what appeared to be systematic efforts to undermine TechFlow's ability to retain high-performing employees. The stolen personnel information included salary data, performance metrics, and strategic development plans that competing firms could use for targeted recruitment efforts designed to weaken TechFlow's competitive capabilities. Bob's investigation also revealed that Jessica had been documenting detailed profiles of TechFlow employees, including information about personal backgrounds, professional relationships, and potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited for recruitment or blackmail purposes. Her file on me contained months of surveillance notes, analysis of my work patterns, and strategic assessments of my professional strengths and weaknesses that read like intelligence reports rather than casual workplace observations. The comprehensive nature of Jessica's intelligence gathering operations suggested professional training in corporate espionage techniques and coordination with external organizations that had sophisticated requirements for competitive intelligence. Her activities went far beyond personal career advancement or workplace jealousy into systematic corporate sabotage that threatened TechFlow's entire business model and competitive position within the Denver consulting market. What Bob found particularly troubling was evidence that Jessica's activities were part of a larger industrial espionage operation targeting multiple technology companies in the Denver area, with coordination between insider operatives at different firms who were sharing intelligence about competitive strategies, personnel movements, and business development opportunities. The scope of this operation suggested funding and organization that extended beyond individual company rivalries into systematic efforts to control market competition through intelligence manipulation. Bob's technical expertise had also allowed him to identify the specific external recipients of stolen TechFlow information, tracing network transfers and email communications to consulting firms, venture capital companies, and technology corporations that had strategic interests in limiting TechFlow's growth and market penetration. The recipients included companies with government contracts and international business relationships that raised the possibility of foreign intelligence involvement in what had initially appeared to be domestic corporate espionage. The evidence Bob had assembled during his weekend investigation was comprehensive enough to support criminal prosecution under federal laws governing corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, and computer fraud, but it also created complex legal and strategic considerations about how to protect TechFlow's interests while addressing the broader implications of systematic intelligence operations targeting Denver's technology sector. His recommendation was to coordinate with federal law enforcement agencies that specialized in corporate espionage cases rather than attempting to address the situation through internal company procedures. What made Bob's investigation particularly valuable was his systematic approach to evidence preservation and documentation, ensuring that all digital forensics, security camera footage, and documentary evidence would meet legal standards for criminal prosecution while protecting TechFlow's proprietary information from further compromise during investigation procedures. His background in corporate IT had taught him the technical requirements for maintaining evidence integrity while conducting investigations that might eventually involve federal law enforcement agencies. Meanwhile, Jessica's behavior during Monday morning team meetings revealed increasing anxiety about developments that she couldn't control or predict, suggesting that external pressures were creating timeline urgency for her intelligence gathering operations. Her questions about the Morrison Industries contract implementation became more pointed and specific, clearly reflecting instructions from external parties who needed detailed information about TechFlow's strategic approach to enterprise consulting projects. The most telling aspect of Jessica's Monday morning behavior was her sudden interest in my professional background and qualifications, asking detailed questions about my MBA program, previous work experience, and technical expertise. That seemed designed to gather information for external reporting rather than casual workplace conversation. Her inquiries had the systematic quality of intelligence debriefing sessions, suggesting that external parties were demanding comprehensive profiles of TechFlow employees who represented potential competitive threats. Jessica's attempts to engage other team members in discussions about my qualifications and professional competence also revealed coordination with internal allies who were helping to amplify her reputation management campaign. These colleagues asked pointed questions about my experience with enterprise consulting, my understanding of technical implementation requirements, and my preparation for managing complex client relationships that required sophisticated project management capabilities. What became clear during Monday's meetings was that Jessica's campaign against my professional reputation was coordinated with broader efforts to undermine employee confidence in TechFlow's leadership and strategic direction. Her questions about company growth plans, competitive positioning, and long-term business development created doubt about management competence while gathering intelligence about strategic priorities that would be valuable for external parties. Planning competitive responses. The timing of Jessica's intensified information gathering coincided with Bob's discovery that external parties were pressuring her to provide updated intelligence about TechFlow's response to the Morrison Industries contract success. The security camera footage showed that Jessica had scheduled additional meetings with external contacts during the current week, suggesting that her intelligence gathering operations were entering a critical phase that would require intervention before additional proprietary information could be compromised. Bob's strategic recommendation was to allow Jessica's planned meetings to proceed while conducting surveillance that would document the full scope of external coordination and identify additional participants in the intelligence operation. His plan involved technical monitoring of electronic communications, covert surveillance of meeting activities, and coordination with federal law enforcement agencies that could provide resources for investigating international business intelligence operations. What made Bob's approach particularly sophisticated was his recognition that premature intervention might cause other intelligence operatives within TechFlow to suspend their activities before they could be identified and documented. The systematic nature of Jessica's operations suggested multiple insider threats that needed to be addressed comprehensively rather than focusing solely on the most obvious participant in what appeared to be a coordinated espionage operation. The evidence that Bob had assembled also provided strategic opportunities for protecting TechFlow's competitive position while exposing the intelligence operations that had been compromising the company's business development efforts. His plan involved using Jessica's expected intelligence gathering activities to provide controlled information that would mislead external parties while documenting their responses in ways that would confirm their participation in corporate espionage operations. Tuesday morning brought new developments that confirmed Bob's assessment about the coordinated nature of the intelligence operations targeting TechFlow. Jessica's behavior during department meetings revealed knowledge about competitive proposals and market developments that she couldn't have obtained through normal business channels, suggesting that external parties were sharing intelligence about industry activities that went beyond TechFlow's internal operations. More concerning was Jessica's sudden interest in establishing closer working relationships with employees who had access to sensitive client information, technical development projects, and strategic planning activities. Her networking efforts appeared systematic rather than social, targeting specific individuals whose cooperation would provide expanded access to proprietary information that external parties needed for comprehensive competitive intelligence. The pattern of Jessica's relationship-building activities confirmed Bob's hypothesis that her role in the intelligence operation involved recruiting additional insider sources who could provide access to information beyond her individual capabilities. Her selection of targets reflected sophisticated understanding of TechFlow's organizational structure and information access hierarchies, suggesting guidance from external parties who had detailed knowledge of corporate intelligence gathering requirements. What Bob found particularly alarming was evidence that Jessica's recruitment efforts were succeeding with several employees who appeared to be providing information about their work activities, client relationships, and strategic planning responsibilities. The expansion of insider cooperation created multiplication of security risks that threatened TechFlow's entire competitive position within the consulting industry. By Wednesday morning, Bob's investigation had documented sufficient evidence to support immediate intervention by federal law enforcement agencies, but his strategic analysis suggested that allowing the intelligence operation to continue for several more days would provide opportunities to identify additional participants and document the full scope of external coordination. His recommendation was to begin coordinating with FBI agents who specialized in corporate espionage cases while maintaining surveillance that would capture evidence of the broader intelligence network. The complexity of the situation had evolved far beyond workplace rivalry or personal career advancement into systematic corporate warfare that threatened not just my professional reputation but TechFlow's entire business model. Jessica's activities represented one component of sophisticated intelligence operations that could destroy the company's competitive position if allowed to continue, but they also provided opportunities for exposing and dismantling broader espionage networks that were targeting Denver's technology sector. What had begun as investigation of suspicious computer access had revealed corporate espionage operations that involved federal crimes, international business intelligence, and systematic efforts to control market competition through theft of proprietary information. The evidence Bob had assembled would transform understanding of corporate security threats while providing unprecedented opportunities for protecting TechFlow's competitive advantages. Thursday morning brought the confrontation I'd been preparing for since Bob's revelations had transformed my understanding of Jessica's true motivations and activities. The quarterly executive presentation was scheduled for 10 a.m., where I would be presenting the Morrison Industries success story to TechFlow's leadership team, including CEO Linda Washington and the board of directors who were evaluating our company's strategic direction for the coming year. What Jessica didn't know was that Bob and I had spent the previous evening coordinating with FBI Special Agent Maria Rodriguez, who specialized in corporate espionage cases and had been investigating suspicious intelligence activities targeting Denver technology companies for the past 8 months. Agent Rodriguez's involvement had provided federal resources for documenting Jessica's activities while ensuring that any evidence gathered would meet legal standards for criminal prosecution. Her team had installed sophisticated monitoring equipment that would capture Jessica's planned meeting with external contacts scheduled for Thursday evening, creating opportunities to document the full scope of external coordination while protecting TechFlow's proprietary information from further compromise. The morning presentation began with Michael Davidson introducing the Morrison Industries success as validation of TechFlow's strategic positioning within the enterprise consulting market. His comments about innovative proposal development and competitive differentiation were intended to highlight company capabilities, but they also provided the perfect opportunity for Jessica to launch her carefully prepared attack on my professional qualifications and the legitimacy of our contract. Success. Jessica's opening remarks during the presentation discussion period were masterfully crafted to appear supportive while systematically undermining confidence in my capabilities and the sustainability of the Morrison relationship. She expressed enthusiasm about the contract's success while raising concerns about whether TechFlow possessed the depth of expertise necessary for managing such complex implementation requirements over a 3-year timeline. Her questions about technical capabilities, project management resources, and quality assurance procedures were framed as constructive planning discussions, but they were clearly designed to create doubt about my readiness for such demanding responsibilities. What made Jessica's presentation attack particularly sophisticated was her use of technical terminology and industry best practices that demonstrated apparent expertise while highlighting areas where my background might be considered insufficient for enterprise-level consulting requirements. She referenced implementation methodologies, compliance frameworks, and risk management protocols that would be familiar to board members with corporate technology experience, creating the impression that she possessed superior knowledge about complex project management requirements. Jessica's strategic approach during the presentation involved positioning herself as a supportive colleague who was concerned about protecting TechFlow's reputation and client relationships from potential implementation failures. Her comments about the importance of experienced leadership for complex projects weren't explicitly critical of my qualifications, but they created clear implications about the risks of allowing less experienced team members to manage such high-stakes client relationships. The most damaging aspect of Jessica's presentation intervention was her systematic questioning of my strategic approach to the Morrison project, suggesting that the modular implementation methodology I developed might not provide adequate integration capabilities for enterprise-level digital transformation requirements. Her technical criticisms were sophisticated enough to raise legitimate concerns among board members who weren't familiar with the specific details of Morrison's operational requirements and technological infrastructure. Jessica's attack reached its crescendo when she suggested that TechFlow should consider bringing in external consulting support to ensure successful Morrison implementation, potentially partnering with firms that had more extensive experience managing enterprise digital transformation projects. Her recommendation was presented as risk management rather than personal criticism, but the implications for my leadership role and professional credibility were unmistakable. The moment I'd been waiting for arrived when Jessica concluded her presentation comments by suggesting that TechFlow's recent success might be partially attributed to market conditions and client relationships rather than purely technical capabilities, implying that sustainable growth would require more experienced leadership for future enterprise consulting opportunities. Her tone remained professional and supportive, but her message was clear: I wasn't qualified for the responsibilities I'd been given, and continued success would require replacing me with more experienced alternatives. Linda Washington's response to Jessica's presentation comments provided the opening I needed to shift the discussion from defensive justification of my qualifications to proactive demonstration of professional competence and strategic thinking. CEO Washington asked direct questions about my educational background, previous experience, and specific contributions to the Morrison proposal development, creating opportunities to present evidence that would definitively address Jessica's implied criticisms about my professional qualifications. My response began with systematic presentation of my educational credentials, starting with my MBA from the University of Colorado's Leeds School of Business, where I'd specialized in strategic marketing and technology management with particular focus on enterprise software implementation and digital transformation strategies. The degree requirements had included comprehensive coursework in project management, financial analysis, and organizational change management that provided exactly the theoretical foundation necessary for managing complex consulting relationships. The MBA program's emphasis on case study analysis and practical application had prepared me specifically for the kind of strategic thinking required for enterprise consulting, including detailed study of successful digital transformation projects at companies similar to Morrison Industries. My graduate research had focused on modular implementation methodologies for large-scale technology integration, making my strategic approach to the Morrison project a direct application of academic expertise rather than intuitive guesswork. What made my educational background particularly relevant was the program's integration of technical and business perspectives, providing comprehensive understanding of both the technological requirements for enterprise software implementation and the organizational dynamics that determine project success. The combination of technical coursework and business strategy education had prepared me to bridge the gap between complex technical capabilities and practical business requirements that characterized successful consulting relationships. Beyond academic credentials, my 8 years of professional experience had provided progressive responsibility for increasingly complex marketing and business development challenges that directly prepared me for enterprise consulting requirements. My previous positions had involved managing multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns, coordinating cross-functional project teams, and developing strategic relationships with corporate clients who demanded sophisticated analytical capabilities and creative problem-solving approaches. The progression of my professional responsibilities demonstrated consistent advancement based on measurable results rather than political maneuvering or personal relationships. Each position had built upon previous experience while adding new Challenges that expanded my capabilities in areas like budget management, timeline coordination, quality assurance, and client relationship development that were essential for successful consulting project management. My specific contributions to the Morrison Industries proposal represented the culmination of educational preparation and professional experience rather than fortunate accident or external assistance. The modular implementation strategy that had differentiated TechFlow's proposal from our competitors was based on systematic analysis of Morrison's operational requirements, detailed research into available technology solutions, and creative integration of business strategy with technical capabilities that reflected comprehensive understanding of enterprise consulting methodologies. The technical sophistication of my Morrison proposal had required coordination with TechFlow's engineering teams, financial analysts, and operations specialists to ensure that recommended solutions were feasible within budget and timeline constraints, while providing the competitive advantages that Morrison needed for their digital transformation objectives. This coordination had demanded exactly the kind of project management capabilities and strategic thinking that Jessica had questioned during her presentation comments. What made my Morrison success particularly meaningful was the client feedback we'd received about the proposal quality and strategic insights that had influenced their vendor selection decision. Morrison's technology leadership had specifically praised the modular approach as innovative solution to their implementation timeline concerns, and their financial team had highlighted our cost-benefit analysis as superior to competing proposals. In terms of both analytical rigor and practical applicability, the documentation I presented during the board discussion included Morrison's written evaluation comments, which specifically praised my personal contributions to proposal development and strategic planning activities. Their assessment noted the comprehensive understanding of enterprise requirements and creative problem-solving approaches that had distinguished TechFlow's proposal from more conventional consulting offerings provided by competing firms with supposedly superior experience and resources. Linda Washington's follow-up questions about my long-term professional development and strategic vision for TechFlow's growth provided additional opportunities to demonstrate the depth of my commitment to the company and my understanding of competitive positioning within the enterprise consulting market. My responses outlined specific plans for expanding our capabilities in areas like cybersecurity consulting, cloud migration services, and artificial intelligence integration that would build upon the Morrison success while diversifying our revenue streams. The strategic planning I presented reflected comprehensive market analysis and competitive assessment that went far beyond tactical project management to encompass long-term business development strategies that could position TechFlow as a regional leader in enterprise technology consulting. My vision included partnership development, staff expansion, and capability enhancement initiatives that demonstrated serious commitment to building sustainable competitive advantages rather than pursuing short-term client relationship opportunities. Jessica's response to my comprehensive presentation of credentials and strategic planning revealed the desperation underlying her systematic campaign against my professional reputation. Her follow-up comments became increasingly pointed and personal, abandoning the supportive colleague facade to make direct accusations about my qualifications and suggestions that my rapid advancement reflected factors beyond professional competence. The shift in Jessica's tone and approach during the board discussion provided perfect validation of Bob's assessment about her motivations and external pressures. Her increasing agitation and obvious frustration suggested that my successful defense of my qualifications was creating problems for intelligence gathering operations that depended upon undermining my credibility and professional standing within TechFlow's leadership structure. What made Jessica's reaction particularly revealing was her sudden introduction of specific technical criticisms that she couldn't possibly have developed through casual observation of my work or general knowledge of enterprise consulting requirements. Her detailed questions about implementation methodologies and compliance frameworks demonstrated access to proprietary information about the Morrison project that she shouldn't have possessed through normal business channels. Michael Davidson's intervention during Jessica's increasingly aggressive questioning provided additional confirmation that her behavior was exceeding acceptable bounds of professional discourse and creating concerns among senior leadership about her motivations and professional judgment. His suggestion that detailed technical discussions might be more appropriate for private project planning sessions rather than board presentations was a diplomatic way of limiting Jessica's opportunities to continue her attack while protecting the integrity of the executive discussion. The climactic moment of the confrontation arrived when Jessica made her fatal mistake of directly questioning whether my MBA credentials were authentic, suggesting that someone with my background couldn't possibly have developed the sophisticated strategic insights that had impressed Morrison Industries leadership. Her implication that my educational achievements might be exaggerated or misrepresented crossed the line from professional criticism into personal attack that demanded immediate and decisive response. My reaction to Jessica's direct challenge was to request that Linda Washington verify my educational credentials immediately, using her assistant to contact the University of Colorado's registrar office for official confirmation of my degree, status, and academic performance. The suggestion that we resolve questions about my qualifications through official verification rather than continued debate demonstrated confidence in my credentials while exposing Jessica's accusations as unfounded speculation rather than legitimate professional concerns. The 15-minute interval while Linda Washington's assistant contacted the university registrar created tension in the conference room that highlighted the stakes of Jessica's challenge and the implications for both our professional reputations. Board members who had initially seemed receptive to Jessica's concerns about my experience began recognizing the serious nature of her accusations and the potential consequences if her allegations proved false. Linda Washington's announcement of the university's confirmation that I had graduated summa cum laude with an MBA in Strategic Marketing and Technology Management, maintaining a 3.9 GPA throughout the program, provided definitive validation of my educational qualifications while completely undermining Jessica's credibility with the board of directors. The registrar's additional confirmation that my graduate research had focused specifically on modular implementation strategies for enterprise software integration demonstrated the direct relevance of my academic preparation to the Morrison Industries' success. The aftermath of Jessica's failed attack on my credentials created opportunities for revealing the true scope of her activities and motivations. Bob's strategic timing meant that Agent Rodriguez was positioned to document Jessica's reaction to the confrontation failure and her subsequent communication with external contacts who needed to be informed about the collapse of their intelligence gathering operations. Jessica's desperate attempt to salvage her reputation by suggesting that educational credentials alone weren't sufficient preparation for complex consulting responsibilities only further damaged her standing with board members who recognized the unfairness and inappropriateness of her continued attacks. Her inability to acknowledge the definitive proof of my qualifications revealed the personal nature of her motivations and raised questions about her professional judgment and suitability for continued employment at TechFlow. The board discussion concluded with Linda Washington's clear statement of confidence in my qualifications and strategic vision, along with explicit criticism of Jessica's inappropriate behavior during the presentation. The CEO's support provided validation that went beyond defense of my credentials to encompass recognition of my contributions to TechFlow's success and potential for future leadership responsibilities. What Jessica couldn't have anticipated as she left the conference room was that her attack on my credentials had provided the final piece of evidence that Agent Rodriguez needed to document the personal motivations underlying her intelligence gathering activities. The systematic nature of her campaign against my reputation, combined with her access to proprietary information and coordination with external parties, had created sufficient probable cause for criminal prosecution under federal espionage statutes. The evening would bring the culmination of weeks of investigation as Jessica's planned meeting with external contacts proceeded under FBI surveillance, providing opportunities to document the full scope of corporate espionage operations while protecting TechFlow from further intelligence compromise. The woman who had spent months positioning me as an unqualified beneficiary of undeserved advancement was about to discover that her own activities had been systematically documented by federal law enforcement agencies with the authority and resources to pursue criminal prosecution. The evening hours brought a sense of anticipation that had nothing to do with typical Thursday night routines and everything to do with the culmination of weeks of investigation that would finally expose the true scope of Jessica's activities. Agent Rodriguez had positioned her surveillance team in strategic locations around TechFlow's building, using sophisticated monitoring equipment to document Jessica's scheduled meeting with external contacts while ensuring that any evidence collected would meet federal standards for criminal prosecution of corporate espionage operations. Bob's coordination with the FBI team had provided technical support that allowed comprehensive monitoring of electronic communications, security camera footage, and audio surveillance that would capture detailed evidence of intelligence sharing activities between Jessica and external operatives who had been systematically compromising TechFlow's competitive position. The operation represented months of careful planning and evidence gathering that would finally provide definitive proof of systematic corporate espionage targeting Denver's technology sector. What made Thursday evening's surveillance particularly significant was the timing, which coincided with Jessica's urgent need to report the failure of her campaign against my professional reputation and the implications for ongoing intelligence gathering operations. Her external contacts had invested considerable resources in compromising TechFlow's competitive advantages, and my successful defense of my qualifications represented a serious setback that required immediate strategic reassessment and operational adjustments. The security camera footage captured Jessica's arrival at TechFlow around 7 p.m., using her after-hours access privileges to enter the building during periods when normal business activities had concluded and security monitoring was limited to essential personnel like Bob. Her behavior revealed obvious anxiety about the day's events and concern about how to explain the collapse of her systematic campaign to undermine my credibility with TechFlow's leadership team. Jessica's first action upon entering the building was to access her computer and review email communications that had accumulated during the afternoon, suggesting coordination with external parties who were demanding immediate updates about the status of intelligence operations and the potential impact on future information gathering activities. The urgency of her communication activities confirmed Bob's assessment that her espionage operations were part of larger coordinated efforts that required regular reporting and strategic coordination. Agent Rodriguez's technical team had installed state-of-the-art audio monitoring equipment in the conference room where Jessica typically conducted her clandestine meetings, allowing real-time capture of conversations that would provide unprecedented insight into the organizational structure and operational methods of the corporate espionage network. The sophisticated listening devices could penetrate electronic jamming attempts and capture clear recordings even when participants attempted to whisper or use code words to disguise their activities. The surveillance technology also included video monitoring capabilities that would document body language, document exchanges, and other visual evidence that could support criminal prosecution while protecting the integrity of ongoing intelligence operations. The comprehensive nature of the monitoring equipment reflected the FBI's commitment to building airtight cases against sophisticated criminal organizations that possessed significant resources and technical capabilities for avoiding detection. What Agent Rodriguez found particularly encouraging about Thursday evening's operation was the opportunity to document real-time coordination between Jessica and external operatives who had been evading federal surveillance for months through sophisticated counterintelligence measures. The controlled environment of TechFlow's building provided optimal conditions for capturing evidence that would be admissible in federal court while protecting the broader investigation from exposure to other participants in the espionage network. The external contacts who arrived for Jessica's evening meeting included individuals that Agent Rodriguez's team had been tracking for several months as part of broader investigations into corporate espionage networks targeting technology companies throughout the Rocky Mountain region. Their presence at TechFlow confirmed that Jessica's activities were connected to systematic intelligence operations that extended far beyond individual company rivalries into coordinated efforts to control market competition through theft of proprietary information. Agent Rodriguez's surveillance team documented the arrival of Marcus Chen, a senior analyst from Pinnacle Consulting who had been submitting suspiciously informed proposals for contracts that competed directly with TechFlow's business development efforts. His presence confirmed that Jessica had been sharing strategic planning documents, proposal development insights, and competitive intelligence that allowed Pinnacle to anticipate and counter TechFlow's marketing strategies with remarkable precision. Marcus's background included previous work for defense contractors and international consulting firms that raised questions about potential foreign intelligence connections to the espionage network. The second external participant was Elena Vasquez, who represented DataBridge Solutions, a consulting firm with international connections that had been acquiring smaller technology companies throughout the Denver area using intelligence about their financial vulnerabilities and competitive weaknesses. Her involvement suggested that Jessica's intelligence gathering supported broader market manipulation activities designed to consolidate regional technology resources under external control. Elena's educational background included advanced degrees in computer science and international business, suggesting sophisticated understanding of both technical and strategic intelligence requirements. Most concerning was the presence of Dr. James Liu, whose official position with Rocky Mountain Venture Capital masked his role in coordinating intelligence operations that supported strategic investment decisions based on stolen proprietary information. His participation indicated that Jessica's activities were part of systematic efforts to manipulate venture capital markets through advanced knowledge of technology developments and competitive strategies that should have remained confidential. Dr. Liu's previous work history included positions with international investment firms and technology companies that had raised federal investigators' concerns about potential economic espionage connections. The preliminary surveillance of these individuals had revealed extensive international travel patterns, financial relationships with foreign entities, and communication activities that suggested coordination with intelligence operations extending far beyond domestic corporate espionage into potential threats to national economic security. Their presence at TechFlow represented a convergence of interests that federal investigators had been attempting to document for more than a year through various investigative approaches. Agent Rodriguez's team had positioned multiple surveillance units around TechFlow's building to ensure comprehensive documentation of the meeting while maintaining operational security that would prevent exposure of federal investigative activities. The coordination involved Denver Police Department resources, state law enforcement technical support, and federal agencies with jurisdiction over economic espionage and computer crimes. The multi-agency approach reflected the serious nature of the threats that Jessica's activities represented for both individual companies and broader economic security interests. The conference room meeting that Agent Rodriguez's team monitored through sophisticated audio surveillance equipment revealed the systematic nature of intelligence operations that had been targeting TechFlow and similar companies for more than 2 years. Jessica's role involved providing regular reports about internal business developments, strategic planning activities, and personnel changes that external parties used for competitive advantage and investment manipulation purposes. Her reports followed standardized formats that suggested professional intelligence training and coordination with organizational structures that extended far beyond casual business relationships. The audio recordings captured detailed discussions about the scope of information that Jessica had been providing, including complete client databases, financial projections, strategic planning documents, and personnel files that represented comprehensive intelligence about TechFlow's operations and competitive positioning. The value of this intelligence for external parties was estimated in millions of dollars of competitive advantage and investment opportunities that depended upon advanced knowledge of market developments. The systematic nature of the intelligence requirements suggested coordination with foreign economic interests that viewed Denver's technology sector as strategically important for broader competitive positioning. Jessica's report about the failure of her campaign against my professional reputation revealed the strategic importance that external parties had placed on undermining employees who represented potential threats to ongoing intelligence operations. My success with the Morrison Industries contract had demonstrated TechFlow's capability for independent innovation that didn't rely on external intelligence support, creating competitive advantages that threatened the effectiveness of systematic espionage operations. The external party's reaction suggested that my professional competence represented a significant obstacle to their broader objectives for controlling regional technology development. The external contact's reaction to Jessica's report about my MBA verification and board support revealed anger and frustration about the failure of systematic reputation management that had been intended to neutralize my influence within TechFlow's strategic planning activities. Their discussion of alternative approaches for dealing with employees who represented security risks included suggestions that crossed legal boundaries into intimidation and harassment that would constitute additional federal crimes. The escalation of their planned responses demonstrated the serious threat that competent employees represented to systematic intelligence operations. Marcus Chen's specific comments about the financial investments that Pinnacle Consulting had made based on intelligence obtained through Jessica's activities revealed the scope of economic damage that the espionage operations had caused to TechFlow and other targeted companies. His calculations suggested that advanced knowledge of TechFlow's strategic planning had generated millions of dollars in competitive advantages for Pinnacle while creating corresponding losses for companies whose proprietary information had been systematically compromised. The financial evidence provided quantifiable damages that would support both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. Elena Vasquez's discussion of DataBridge Solutions' acquisition strategies revealed how stolen intelligence had been used to target vulnerable technology companies for hostile takeovers and forced mergers that consolidated market control under external management. Her comments about specific companies that had been targeted through intelligence operations confirmed federal investigators' suspicions about systematic market manipulation activities that extended far beyond normal competitive business practices into potential violations of antitrust and economic espionage statutes. Dr. Liu's presentation of financial analysis based on stolen TechFlow intelligence revealed the sophisticated methods that Rocky Mountain Venture Capital had been using to manipulate investment markets through advanced knowledge of technology developments and competitive positioning. His discussion included specific examples of investment decisions that had generated substantial returns based on proprietary information that should have remained confidential, providing evidence of systematic market manipulation that violated federal securities regulations and economic espionage statutes. What made the surveillance recordings particularly valuable was the detailed discussion of financial arrangements between Jessica and external parties, including payment schedules, performance bonuses, and expense reimbursements that documented the systematic nature of her intelligence gathering activities. The financial evidence provided definitive proof that Jessica's activities constituted professional espionage rather than casual information sharing or workplace gossip. The payment amounts exceeded Jessica's annual salary at TechFlow, suggesting that espionage activities represented her primary source of income rather than supplementary compensation. The meeting recordings also captured discussions about other TechFlow employees who had been recruited or targeted for recruitment as intelligence sources, revealing that Jessica's activities were part of broader efforts to establish comprehensive surveillance networks within Denver technology companies. The scope of these operations included systematic targeting of employees with access to sensitive information, strategic positioning of insider operatives, and coordination between multiple companies to maximize intelligence gathering effectiveness. The network included employees from at least 8 different technology companies who had been providing various forms of intelligence support to external parties. Agent Rodriguez's team documented evidence that Jessica had been instrumental in recruiting at least 4 other TechFlow employees who had been providing various forms of intelligence support, including financial information, personnel data, and strategic planning insights that enhanced the value of intelligence operations for external parties. The network of insider operatives had created systematic compromise of TechFlow's competitive position that extended far beyond Jessica's individual activities. The recruited employees included individuals from accounting, human resources, engineering, and sales departments who collectively provided comprehensive access to all aspects of TechFlow's operations. The surveillance operation also captured detailed discussions about future intelligence requirements and strategic priorities for ongoing espionage operations, including specific targets for information gathering and timeline pressures for obtaining intelligence about TechFlow's response to the Morrison Industries contract success. External parties were clearly planning expanded operations that would require additional insider cooperation and more sophisticated intelligence gathering techniques. Their planning included development of new recruitment strategies, enhanced technical capabilities, and coordination with additional external organizations that would expand the scope and effectiveness of intelligence operations. Most damaging was the recorded discussion about plans for disrupting TechFlow's Morrison Industries implementation through strategic leaking of proprietary information to competitors who could use advanced knowledge of TechFlow's approaches to submit alternative proposals or create implementation challenges that would damage client relationships and company reputation. The sabotage planning represented escalation beyond passive intelligence gathering into active measures designed to destroy TechFlow's competitive position. The specific tactics discussed included timing coordinated competitive responses, creating technical challenges during implementation phases, and manipulating client relationships through strategic disinformation campaigns. Dr. Liu's presentation of a comprehensive strategy for undermining TechFlow's Morrison Industries success revealed the sophisticated nature of the economic warfare being conducted against Denver technology companies. His plan included coordinated attacks on multiple fronts designed to create cascading failures that would destroy TechFlow's reputation while creating acquisition opportunities for external parties. The systematic nature of the planned sabotage demonstrated professional expertise in corporate warfare that suggested coordination with foreign economic interests rather than domestic competitive activities. The meeting concluded with specific assignments for Jessica's continued intelligence gathering activities, including requirements for obtaining detailed information about TechFlow's strategic planning for the coming year, personnel development initiatives, and technology acquisition plans that would guide external parties' competitive responses and investment strategies. The systematic nature of these assignments confirmed the ongoing threat that Jessica's activities represented for TechFlow's business interests. Her new assignments included infiltrating board meetings, accessing financial planning documents, and recruiting additional insider sources who could provide expanded intelligence capabilities. Elena Vasquez's discussion of coordination with similar operations at other technology companies revealed the regional scope of intelligence activities that were systematically compromising competitive advantages throughout Denver's technology sector. Her comments suggested that external parties were conducting comprehensive economic intelligence operations designed to control market development and technology innovation across multiple industry segments. The coordination included sharing intelligence between operations targeting different companies, coordinating timing of competitive responses, and managing market manipulation activities that maximized advantages for external parties while minimizing risks of detection. Agent Rodriguez's surveillance team maintained monitoring of the external contacts as they departed TechFlow's building, documenting their coordination with additional operatives and their transportation to locations where They could transmit stolen intelligence to external organizations without risking interception by law enforcement surveillance. The operational security measures revealed sophisticated training and resources that confirmed the systematic nature of corporate espionage operations targeting Denver's technology sector. The departure protocols included counter-surveillance techniques, secure communication procedures, and coordination with backup operatives that demonstrated professional intelligence training. The technical analysis of electronic devices that Jessica and her contacts used during the meeting revealed sophisticated encryption capabilities and communication security measures that suggested coordination with foreign intelligence services or international criminal organizations. The level of technical sophistication exceeded typical corporate espionage capabilities and approached standards used by foreign government intelligence operations. Agent Rodriguez's cybersecurity specialists identified communication protocols and encryption methods that had been associated with foreign economic espionage operations in other metropolitan areas. Friday morning brought the coordinated law enforcement action that Agent Rodriguez had been planning throughout the surveillance operation. Federal agents executed search warrants simultaneously at Jessica's residence, the offices of Pinnacle Consulting, DataBridge Solutions, and Rocky Mountain Venture Capital, seizing electronic equipment, financial records, and documentary evidence that would support comprehensive prosecution of the espionage network that had been systematically compromising regional technology companies. The coordinated raids involved more than 50 federal agents and technical specialists who ensured that evidence collection met federal standards while preventing destruction of critical intelligence. The search warrant execution at TechFlow's offices allowed federal agents to secure additional evidence of Jessica's intelligence gathering activities while protecting the company's proprietary information from further compromise. Bob's cooperation with the investigation provided technical expertise that enabled comprehensive analysis of security breaches and systematic documentation of stolen information that would support both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. For damages, the evidence collection included complete reconstruction of Jessica's computer activities, recovery of deleted files, and analysis of network communications that revealed the full scope of intelligence operations. Jessica's arrest occurred as she arrived for work Friday morning, unaware that Thursday evening's surveillance had provided federal agents with sufficient evidence to support charges under multiple statutes governing corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, computer fraud, and conspiracy to commit economic espionage. Her shock at being confronted with evidence of her systematic intelligence gathering activities confirmed that she'd never anticipated the sophistication of the investigation that had been documenting her activities. The arrest proceeded smoothly, with Jessica initially attempting to deny involvement before being presented with audio recordings of Thursday evening's meeting that made further denials impossible. The charges filed against Jessica included violations of the Economic Espionage Act, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, federal conspiracy statutes, and wire fraud regulations that carried potential sentences exceeding 25 years in federal prison. The systematic nature of her intelligence gathering operations and the financial damages to TechFlow and other targeted companies provided aggravating factors that would likely result in substantial prison sentences even if she cooperated with ongoing investigations. Federal prosecutors emphasized that the charges reflected the serious national security implications of economic espionage operations that threatened American technological competitiveness. The simultaneous arrests of Marcus Chen, Elena Vasquez, and Dr. James Liu provided federal prosecutors with leverage for obtaining cooperation from lower-level operatives while pursuing more serious charges against the organizers and financiers of systematic espionage operations. The coordination between multiple consulting firms and venture capital organizations suggested potential involvement of foreign intelligence services that would trigger additional federal jurisdiction and enhanced penalties. Each arrest was coordinated to prevent communication between co-conspirators while maximizing opportunities for evidence preservation and witness cooperation. Marcus Chen's arrest at Pinnacle Consulting's offices revealed extensive documentation of intelligence operations targeting at least 12 different technology companies throughout the Rocky Mountain region. The evidence included detailed intelligence reports, financial analysis based on stolen information, and coordination plans with external organizations that suggested involvement in systematic economic espionage operations extending far beyond Denver's technology sector. His cooperation with federal investigators provided insights into organizational structures and operational methods that facilitated prosecution of additional participants in the espionage network. Elena Vasquez's arrest revealed financial records showing payments from foreign entities that confirmed federal investigators' suspicions about international coordination of economic espionage operations targeting American technology companies. Her cooperation provided evidence of systematic market manipulation activities that had affected technology development and competitive positioning throughout multiple metropolitan areas. The international connections raised the stakes of the investigation while providing federal prosecutors with additional charges related to foreign agent registration requirements and economic espionage statutes. Dr. Liu's arrest produced evidence of coordination with foreign investment organizations and international consulting firms that had been systematically targeting American technology companies for acquisition and competitive manipulation. His financial records revealed payments exceeding $2 million for intelligence activities that supported foreign economic interests at the expense of American technological competitiveness. The evidence provided federal prosecutors with the foundation for charges under the Foreign Agent Registration Act and economic espionage statutes that carried enhanced penalties for activities that threaten national economic security. Linda Washington's response to the federal investigation and Jessica's arrest included immediate implementation of enhanced security protocols designed to prevent future intelligence gathering operations while protecting TechFlow's competitive position during ongoing legal proceedings. Her statement to company employees emphasized the serious nature of corporate espionage threats while reassuring clients and business partners about TechFlow's commitment to protecting proprietary information and maintaining competitive integrity. The enhanced security measures included comprehensive background investigations for all employees, technical security upgrades, and coordination with federal law enforcement agencies for ongoing threat assessment. The revelation of Jessica's systematic intelligence gathering activities provided validation of my professional achievements while exposing the true motivations behind months of reputation management that had created personal stress and professional uncertainty. Understanding that her campaign against my qualifications had been motivated by systematic espionage rather than workplace jealousy transformed my perspective about the challenges I'd been facing and the strength I'd demonstrated by persevering. Despite persistent undermining, the vindication was comprehensive, extending beyond personal validation to recognition of the serious threats that competent employees represented to systematic intelligence operations. Michael Davidson's acknowledgement of the sophisticated nature of the intelligence operations that had been targeting TechFlow provided context for understanding how external parties had been able to anticipate company strategies and competitive responses with suspicious accuracy. The systematic theft of proprietary information explained competitive challenges that had seemed unusually difficult and client relationships that had developed unexpected complications. His analysis of the intelligence operations revealed that TechFlow had been operating at a significant competitive disadvantage due to systematic compromise of strategic planning and business development activities. The financial analysis conducted by federal investigators revealed that Jessica's intelligence gathering activities had cost TechFlow approximately $15 million in lost business opportunities, competitive disadvantages, and strategic setbacks that resulted from competitors having advanced knowledge of company plans and capabilities. The damages provided basis for civil litigation that would seek recovery of losses while deterring similar operations targeting other technology companies. The financial impact extended beyond direct losses to include opportunity costs, competitive positioning damage, and strategic plan disruption that affected TechFlow's entire market presence. Bob's recognition by federal law enforcement for his systematic investigation and evidence gathering provided validation of his professional expertise while highlighting the critical importance of security personnel who possess technical capabilities necessary for detecting sophisticated intelligence operations. His transition from night security to director of corporate security reflected TechFlow's enhanced commitment to protecting proprietary information and competitive advantages. The promotion included responsibility for developing comprehensive security protocols that would protect against future intelligence operations while maintaining operational efficiency. The Morrison Industries contract implementation proceeded with enhanced security protocols and client confidence that had been strengthened by TechFlow's demonstration of commitment to protecting proprietary information and competitive integrity. Morrison's leadership expressed satisfaction with the company's handling of security challenges while emphasizing their continued confidence in TechFlow's capabilities for managing complex enterprise consulting relationships. The client's positive response to TechFlow's security improvements became a competitive advantage for pursuing additional enterprise consulting opportunities. The success of the federal investigation and prosecution of the espionage network provided opportunities for TechFlow to strengthen relationships with other technology companies that had been targeted by similar operations, creating collaborative approaches to corporate security that would benefit the entire Denver technology sector. The shared threat of systematic intelligence gathering had created common interests that transcended normal competitive relationships. The collaborative security initiatives included information sharing protocols, joint security assessments, and coordination with federal law enforcement agencies for ongoing threat monitoring. My promotion to Senior Director of Strategic Development reflected Linda Washington's recognition of my contributions to TechFlow's success and my resilience in the face of systematic attempts to undermine my professional reputation. The enhanced responsibilities included oversight of competitive intelligence protection, strategic partnership development, and business development initiatives that would build upon the Morrison industry's success while expanding TechFlow's market presence. The position provided opportunities for implementing comprehensive security measures while pursuing aggressive growth strategies that would establish TechFlow as a regional leader in enterprise technology consulting. The new responsibilities included development of strategic partnerships with other technology companies that had been targeted by intelligence operations, creating collaborative approaches to market development that would strengthen competitive positioning while protecting proprietary information. The partnership initiatives provided opportunities for expanding TechFlow's capabilities while sharing resources for enhanced security and competitive intelligence protection. The collaborative approach represented innovative responses to systematic espionage threats that demonstrated leadership in corporate security practices. The establishment of the Sarah Martinez Fellowship for Professional Ethics in Technology provided opportunities for supporting emerging professionals who demonstrated commitment to maintaining integrity in competitive business environments while developing innovative solutions for complex technical challenges. The program reflected my commitment to preventing future incidents of systematic professional undermining while encouraging excellence in technology consulting. The fellowship included funding for advanced education, mentorship programs, and research initiatives that would advance professional ethics standards throughout the technology industry. Agent Rodriguez's debriefing sessions revealed that the espionage network targeting Denver technology companies was part of a broader operation that had been systematically compromising competitive advantages throughout the Rocky Mountain region for more than 5 years. The successful prosecution of the TechFlow operation provided federal law enforcement with leverage for investigating similar networks in other metropolitan areas where technology companies represented strategic targets. The investigation revealed coordination between espionage operations in Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs that suggested systematic targeting of Colorado's technology sector. The intelligence gathered through the TechFlow investigation provided federal agencies with insights into operational methods and organizational structures that facilitated prosecution of related espionage networks throughout the western United States. The coordination between different operations included sharing of technical capabilities, recruitment strategies, and intelligence requirements that maximized effectiveness while minimizing risks of detection. The systematic nature of the operations confirmed federal investigators' assessments about sophisticated foreign economic espionage targeting American technology sectors. The media coverage of the espionage prosecution highlighted the sophisticated nature of modern corporate intelligence operations while emphasizing the importance of employee vigilance and corporate security measures for protecting competitive advantages in technology industries. The case became a model for law enforcement cooperation with private sector security professionals in addressing systematic threats to intellectual property and competitive integrity. The publicity created awareness about espionage threats that encouraged enhanced security measures throughout Denver's technology sector. The federal prosecution team's presentation of evidence revealed the international scope of economic espionage operations that had been systematically targeting American technology companies for strategic intelligence that supported foreign competitive advantages. The prosecution included charges under multiple federal statutes that reflected the serious national security implications of systematic economic espionage activities. The legal proceedings provided opportunities for establishing precedents that would enhance federal capabilities for prosecuting similar cases while deterring future economic espionage operations. 6 months after Jessica's arrest and the dismantling of the espionage network, TechFlow had achieved record revenue growth and market expansion that reflected both the elimination of systematic intelligence compromise and the enhanced competitive advantages that resulted from improved security protocols and strategic planning capabilities. The company's reputation for protecting client information and maintaining competitive integrity had become a significant marketing advantage in enterprise consulting markets. The enhanced security measures had attracted clients who valued comprehensive protection of proprietary information while maintaining operational efficiency. The federal trial proceedings provided additional evidence of the systematic nature of corporate espionage operations targeting technology companies, with testimony revealing coordination between multiple intelligence networks that had been sharing stolen information and strategic insights across industry boundaries. The scope of the operations demonstrated the critical importance of enhanced security measures and federal law enforcement cooperation for protecting intellectual property and competitive advantages. The trial evidence revealed espionage operations targeting technology companies in 12 different metropolitan areas throughout the United States. Jessica's eventual plea agreement included cooperation with federal investigations of related espionage operations in exchange for reduced sentencing. But her testimony revealed additional participants and organizational structures that extended the investigation into international business intelligence networks with potential foreign government connections. The complexity of the operations confirmed the sophistication of modern corporate espionage and the resources required for effective detection and prosecution. Her cooperation provided federal investigators with insights into recruitment methods, operational security measures, and coordination protocols that facilitated prosecution of additional espionage networks. The personal transformation I experienced throughout the investigation and prosecution process reinforced lessons about professional resilience, the importance of systematic documentation, and the value of cultivating relationships with colleagues who possess complementary expertise and shared commitment to professional integrity. The challenges that had initially seemed overwhelming had become opportunities for demonstrating capabilities and developing strength that would guide future career advancement. The experience provided insights into corporate security threats, while demonstrating the effectiveness of systematic investigation and federal law enforcement cooperation. The Morrison Industries relationship continued to flourish with additional contract expansions and strategic partnerships that validated the innovative approaches I'd developed during the original proposal process. Client satisfaction with TechFlow's performance had led to referrals and business development opportunities that positioned the company for sustained growth in enterprise consulting markets while maintaining the competitive advantages that systematic espionage had attempted to compromise. The client relationship became a model for enterprise consulting excellence that attracted additional high-value opportunities. The expansion of the Morrison relationship included development of additional consulting services that leveraged TechFlow's enhanced security capabilities and strategic planning expertise. The client's confidence in TechFlow's ability to protect proprietary information while delivering innovative solutions created opportunities for pursuing complex projects that required comprehensive security protocols and advanced technical capabilities. The enhanced relationship demonstrated the competitive advantages that resulted from eliminating systematic intelligence compromise while implementing superior security measures. Standing in my new corner office 18 months after the espionage network's exposure, reviewing reports about TechFlow's continued success and industry recognition for security excellence, I reflected on how systematic attempts to undermine my professional reputation had ultimately revealed strengths and capabilities that might never have been fully developed under normal circumstances. The challenges that Jessica's campaign had created had forced me to document and defend my qualifications in ways that provided comprehensive validation of my professional competence while exposing sophisticated criminal activities that threatened the entire technology sector. The recognition that workplace conflicts could mask serious criminal activities had transformed my understanding of professional relationships and the importance of maintaining awareness about potential security threats that extended beyond normal competitive dynamics. The experience had provided valuable insights about corporate espionage operations while demonstrating the effectiveness of systematic investigation and federal law enforcement cooperation for addressing sophisticated intelligence threats. The lessons learned about detecting and responding to systematic professional undermining would guide future security initiatives and professional development activities. The success of the federal prosecution and TechFlow's enhanced market position had created opportunities for industry leadership in corporate security and competitive intelligence protection that extended my influence beyond individual career advancement into broader contributions to technology sector integrity and professional ethics. The platform provided opportunities for mentoring emerging professionals while advocating for enhanced security measures and ethical standards throughout the industry. The leadership role included development of industry best practices for corporate security while promoting collaborative approaches to espionage threat mitigation. What had begun as a celebration of professional achievement with the Morrison Industries contract had evolved into comprehensive exposure of systematic corporate espionage operations that threatened Denver's entire technology sector. The investigation and prosecution process had revealed the sophisticated nature of modern intelligence threats while demonstrating the effectiveness of careful documentation, strategic planning, and federal law enforcement cooperation for protecting competitive advantages and professional integrity. The experience had transformed understanding of corporate security requirements while providing opportunities for industry leadership in espionage threat mitigation. The woman who had spent months questioning my professional qualifications was now serving a 15-year federal prison sentence for systematic corporate espionage, while the achievements she had attempted to undermine had become the foundation for expanded responsibilities and industry recognition that exceeded my original career aspirations. The vindication was complete, but more importantly, the experience had provided insights and capabilities that would guide future professional development and contributions to technology sector security. The contrast between Jessica's criminal conviction and my professional advancement demonstrated the ultimate consequences of choosing integrity over systematic deception and criminal activity. The lessons learned about systematic documentation, strategic alliance building, and federal law enforcement cooperation had applications that extended far beyond individual career protection into broader contributions to corporate security and competitive intelligence protection throughout the technology industry. The experience had demonstrated that individual resilience and professional competence, supported by appropriate resources and strategic thinking, could overcome even sophisticated attempts at systematic professional undermining while contributing to broader security improvements that protected entire industry sectors from systematic economic espionage threats. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.